Let me share my screen, guys. Hey everyone, so today we are going to discuss the validation rules. This is going to be a fairly simple session where we will create one or two simple validation rules, and then we will see what interview questions we can get from validation rules. Then I will also show you how you can use the flows to display those error message instead of creating validation rules. Okay, so I hope you guys are able to see my screen, Salesforce screen, and
Yes, Mohit.
let's create a very simple validation rule. Let's call it close date validation rule. Okay, now what this says is that, and there are different functions available on the validation rules. Okay, so sometimes we get questions from functions as well, like what is pick val, when to use is change, what is clone, what is number, what is the difference between is null and is blank. So those kind of questions also come, but mostly from the people who have less than 3 years of experience. Those who have more than 3 years of experience, you will get some tricky questions like how to bypass the validation rule. Have you ever bypassed the validation rules and all? So let's create a very simple validation rule. Situation is that we'll have to create a validation rule where we will not be able to close an opportunity which whose close date is in past. Okay, so if we try to put a past date as a close date, we'll have to show the error message. Okay, very simple. We just need to insert the field of opportunity close date, and here from here we can say less than, and here we will have to use today. Okay, so I think today is also a function. Let's see. That is fine. Let's check the syntax. And there is no error found. So it says that if close date is less than today, then we will have to display the error message. We'll display the error message as close date cannot be in past. Okay, and then it gives us option to select where you want to display the error message. Okay, on top of page or on the field. Okay, so if you have a very large layout like which has hundreds of field, then you should go for the field. If you have fairly simple layout which only has 20-25, then you can go on top of page as well. The point to remember here is that let's say there are 10 validation rules you have on an object. Okay, then in that case, let's say if the first validation rule hit, the error will come. Then also Salesforce will keep analyzing other validation rules on the same object, and if there are 20 validation rules, let's say 10 are failing, then it will display all the 10 error message. Okay, so if you put on top of page, that helps you to display a better UI, because user will be able to see all the error message on the top of the page, rather than if all the, let's say, 10 validation rule fails and all were displayed on the field, then all 10 field will become red and user need to scroll down to see which are the errors. So it is always better to go on top of page if you have a large object where you have so many validation rules, because even if the first validation rule hit, Salesforce will calculate other validations as well. Okay, and will give you the list of all the errors you are getting from the validation rules. Okay, so you remember that. Okay, and whenever somebody asks you the best practices of validation rules, you can mention this thing is that for the better UI, use top of the page instead of field if we have a big object which has many validation rules. Okay, so I will use top of the page. And this also is an interview question. Let's say there are 10 validation rules, and the first validation rule hit. Will Salesforce calculate other validation rule? The answer will be yes, it will. Now this is active as well. So now let's go to opportunity and try to create an opportunity. Name it test. Let's choose stage as prospect. And now close date, if I try to use as a past date as a close date and save it, it will give me an error. Close date cannot be in past. Okay. So that's how we will get the error. Now, if in the same validation rule, you get the requirement to bypass this for the system administrator. Okay. So then what you're going to do is that this is your first criteria. You will add another criteria. Okay. And which will say profile should not be equals to system administrator. Okay. So from here, you can go to profiles as well. Okay. So you will go to profile. Now there are different ways to do that. Okay. Some people just hard code the ID. Okay. Just like that. Okay. So if I go to my profile, so let's go to setup and pick the profile ID. I'm just telling you that there will be org where you will be seeing it like this, but as a good developer, you will not hard code the ID. Okay. But there is a one way to do that. There are n other ways to do this as well. Okay. So here the purpose is to tell you that or show you that bypassing is possible. Okay. This is the profile ID. Let me copy it. Okay. Let's save this. So what it says is that close date is less than today and profile is not equals to the the system administrator profile ID. Then we will display the error message. Okay. So in that case, if I now try to create the opportunity and I am a system administrator, I should be able to save this. Okay. Stage is prospect. And let's take 16 as a date and try to save this. I will be able to save it because I am a system administrator and we have excluded that profile from the validation rule. Okay, this is one way to do it, but it is not a very good way because first we have hard coded the ID. Later on, if we move this thing to, let's say, production, we'll have always a post deployment step to change this ID with the actual ID which is in production. That will be one. Let's say if we have to add other profiles here as well, let's say for the sales representative or for the sales manager, we have to exclude that as well. Then you will keep on adding profiles and post deployment stuff will keep on getting added. Okay, so there are other ways to do it from custom settings, from custom metadata. You can do that. You can also do it on the user level. So on the user, you can create a checkbox field which says bypass validation, and then you can check if that field is checked here, then bypass this. Otherwise, don't do that. This will not only help you in data loader or just to bypass validation. This will also help you when you want to bypass validation rules for trigger, bypass validation rule for the bulk data load. You just create a checkbox on the user. So let's say you have created one user which always does the data load. Name it data load user. On the user object of that user, you create a checkbox, bypass validation rule. If that bypass validation rule is checked, okay, then you will bypass the trigger. Then you will have to frame your validation rules and triggers in a way that you check that particular field before running anything. So here we have checked the profile. If profile ID is this, then bypass it. Otherwise, run this particular thing. Okay, so bypassing is possible, and there are multiple ways to do that. I'll also encourage every one of you to try different ways to bypass it, because whenever this question comes in an interview, they're not looking for answers. Try to understand that what interviewer is looking for. They are not looking for answers, they already know the answers. They want to see your approach for that. And if you present 2 3 approach and then tell them that what will be the best approach, that will be the most efficient way to answer this, rather than just saying we will exclude the profile ID directly or hard code it, because that will be a wrong way. So you present this approach as well, but then along with that you also present couple of other approach. Okay, see, this is the baddest approach. Better than this will be a checkbox on user record. Better than that will be a custom settings and custom metadata approach. So custom metadata approach is something which I want you guys to figure out on your own today. If not, I can show a demo tomorrow. But if you guys are able to find out, that will be a good way to do this. Okay. That is also easy. It's not a difficult. If you go with the custom settings and metadata, it will be a good approach, and it will obviously gives you maximum impact on interview. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to disable this. And as I was saying, we can use flows now to display the error messages. I will create a flow. Okay. So this will be a small demo on how we can use flow to display error messages. Okay. Those who have not, and this was the winter 24 feature, I think. So let's try this. This will be a record triggered flow. And we will select object as opportunity, because we want to run it whenever a record is created and updated. There is no condition. I want to fast field updates. Validation rules we can use in fast field updates. Treat it as a before save flow, treat it as a after save flow. Okay, so fast field updates are before save flow, actions and related records are the after save flow. This will if you have to send email and if you have to update the related record, you will go for this option. If you will have to update the same object which initiated the transaction, then you will go for the fast field updates. Okay. All right. Here we will have a decision element where we will check the close date. Okay, so close date season and okay. Here we can say close date is in past. And here we can check if, so we will get the current opportunity by @ record. Okay. So if you have to fetch the some data from the current record, you will use it. And we will explain, I mean, we will do a thorough uh, analysis on this when we cover flows. It just that I wanted to show you something. Now here we have to go to find the close date. And here we have to check if it is less than. And here, either you can create a formula for today, or today's date can also be found from these global variables. From the flow, there is a variable called current date, which will also give you today's date. So you can find it here, or you can create a formula field for the today's date. Both will work. Okay. All right. So if it is in past, then I want to show a custom error. Now name it something. Close date error element. Now it gives you two options where you show the error message in a window on the record page or as an inline error on the field. So these are the two options you have. This basically is on top of screen or window where you get a pop-up, or this will be on just field. So this time I'll be using field just to show you how it works. Okay. And if you have a error message, you can create a variable to for show. Here you have to select the field on which you want to display, and then here you can either choose a variable which you created to display the error message, or you can just write down the error message. Better way is to create a variable and put the error message there and use that variable here, because if in case you need to change that error message, you just need to go to that variable instead of coming here on this node. Okay, but for simplicity, let's put it here. So close date cannot be in past. Please review. Even if you choose the select, even if you choose the inline error, it shows the field as well on which the error is coming after the error message. So it will display something like this, even if we do not put anything here. Okay, so we will just quickly demo it. We will save this. Let's call it opportunity before save flow. Okay, let's save this. Let's activate this. Okay, now flow has been activated and this validation rule is deactive. Let us create a new opportunity. Okay. Let's select the close date in past and save this. See, we've got the error message. Okay. Close date cannot be in past. Please review that. And then this will display the field name as well. Okay. So it's okay if you just want to put the error here rather than on field, because it will anyway tell the field name in the at the end of the error message. This will be appended by default by Salesforce field name. Okay. So what we saw here is that we can use flows to display the error message. Anybody did that already on his org or not?
Yeah, I tried in some.
Okay, so whenever you get some requirement on validation rule, as a good developer, you can recommend that we can go for this approach as well. Uh, what it does is that you see they'll run faster. You will not have validation rules. You will not to create a separate validation rules. This will run with other automations you have on that particular object, and yeah, they are fast, so it will improve the performance as well. So let's see, how we go with this. I have used it in my current sprint in one of the user story, because on opportunity object we have so many validation rules already available, and having too many validation rules reduces the performance of your transaction. So because every validation rule will get calculated first, so having too many validation rule is not a very good thing. Create limited validation rule. Okay. Okay, who is asking question? Yeah, please go ahead.
Sir, one doubt, like if we can achieve the same scenario with the help of flows, right? What we are trying to do with validation rule.
Mm-hmm.
So, is there any limitation, like any use case where that particular thing is not possible with this custom error in flows, and only it can be achieved with validation rule?
See,
And if not, so sorry,
yeah, yeah, please go ahead,
like
completely.
if not, so why like Salesforce is continuing validation rule? Like just out of curiosity.
Okay, see, why they have continued the validation rule is that, see, they'll continue giving validation rules option for now, because even in the flow as well, like people have not adopted it 100%, to be very frank. They are
Yes.
still figuring out one flow, two flow, n flows, their approach on flows. And they have given this option because trigger had this option. Okay, from trigger we can show the custom error on screen, but from flows we were not getting that option. And here people are so comfortable with Apex is that when they always try to find a way to say that, okay, trigger is better than flow because of this. So they just wanted to eliminate those pointer where you can say that trigger is better than flow. We will go for approach of apex because of these thing. So their first intention is to eliminate all the list which says that trigger is better than flow, so that flow will be equal to trigger. Then they will push flows to orgs in, then they can flow push it rather than not providing all the functionality. So they are not trying to eliminate validation rules for now. It is just to sync with the functionality which trigger has, which has a functionality to display the custom error message. Validation rules are still very relevant if you have a complex formula, and if there are a lot of calculations happens on validation rule formulas as well. If you have complex formula, they'll not recommend using the flows for now. Maybe later they may say that, but for the simpler formulas, you can use the custom header option available on flows. See, there is no official document from Salesforce which says that start using this instead of validation rule. Okay, so it is just
Yes.
to be ahead with the technology. If we have got a new feature, we have explored it and we feel useful, we can start using it. Salesforce will obviously come up later on saying that, yeah, it is going to be working or not, maybe in future. But for now, for just use it for simple formulas. Okay, if you have a cross object formula which is very complex, and see, whatever cross object formulas you can build on validation rule, you can also build here in flows. Flows are very capable in terms of navigating to different objects. Okay, if not, then you can get that object first, then do that. But you will have to make a better decision in terms of how much lift we have to do in validation rule versus how much lift we have to do in the flows. Okay, if we have a logical reasoning there and we feel that validation rule is still a good approach, go with that, because it will run in a separate like it will have its own validation rule which will not be associated with other thing. Here there can be possibility that you created a flow, somebody added a decision node earlier than this and was not connected to this. So there are possibilities that your execution engine will not come to this decision node because someone else did not do it correctly. So there are always ifs and but, and it will take some time for people to see. On the triggers, we already had this option to show custom error message, right? Yet we used to write yet we used to write validation rules, right? So it later on it will become option for you to choose on where you are more comfortable with. Okay, because in triggers also, when we get the performance related issues due to so many numbers of validation rule, we moved couple of things to trigger as well, which we were doing in the validation rules as well. So it depends on finding a balance between how your org is performing and where you have extra burden, so that you balance that burden with other options available. Okay.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Ooh,
Mohit,
okay.
one question.
Thank you. Now let me
Mohit,
ask.
one question.
Please go ahead.
Yeah.
Deactivate this.
This flows is like another option. That's it. But we cannot say that flow is a better and validation is a better. That is what the agenda, right? Exactly.
That
The
is
flow
yet to
will.
be that is yet to be officially announced by Salesforce, that flows well. I mean, if you show the custom error by say flows, then it will be better. Okay.
Hmm.
So Salesforce has not said this,
But when
but
but when
it will help for the org which have so many validation rules already on an object. And see, when you go on a call with Salesforce and you ask these things, like we go with Salesforce, and on call we always ask these kind of question: why you launched this, what the benefit of this. They'll never say you the binary answers. Okay, they will always say that use what fits your org. Okay, their
correct.
tagline is use what fits your org. So if you see a use case which fits your org in a flow, use it. Otherwise, validation rule is good enough, you can use that. See, problem happens is that with validation rule, if there are so many validation rules in an object, then that calculation takes a lot of time, and sometimes it slows the org, sometimes it slows the record saving, and sometimes it slows the overall transaction. That's it. And
Yeah,
what
but
I am saying is that because my org has so many validation rules.
see, I'm worked in such a project such that we followed the best practice of flow, like one flow for every object for before and after. Okay,
Yeah,
so when we see the picture, I mean, since Salesforce is pushing low code, we pushing every code into the every triggers or every apex, whatever visible, we are pushing into the flow. So when we see such a big designer flow, like it is very hard to understand. We have to go through one by one step everything, like where it is going, where it is not going. Because for a coder, if they go through, they will traverse through that code and they will understand.
yeah.
So getting this validation again into this, it is like again a kind of a nightmare for them again to see, like keep
Yeah.
up.
And
So that is what.
for large flows,
Mm,
it is very important that you plan it very properly. Like whenever you build something, this is the decision node. Okay,
mm.
there is a description. You put a description, a proper description, 2 line, 3 line, 4 line, whatever line you have, which tells that what this decision node is doing,
Yes,
what
correct.
are the outcomes of these decision, when this will executed, when this will be bypassed, which user story this particular decision node was built for, so that anybody who is going through this flow later on will have a proper. And you also need to document your flow as well. In my organization, we have to document as well, like why I choose this, what is the role of this, so that anybody later on can go through that. Okay, we have got many other questions now. Yeah, please go ahead, ask your
Uh,
question, guys.
is there any
Yeah.
way to use this custom error element in screen flows?
Is there any way to show the custom error in screen? See, screen elements though already have that had that option to show the error messages. Like it will not show as an error message, but you can always have a decision element and then they display the screen.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that
They,
already has.
they should handle it right by adding
Yeah,
decision for like
definitely.
path. Okay, yeah. So there's no
Screen,
standard instead of the list.
screen
Yeah, Mohit.
already had that. Yeah, please.
Yeah, Mohit, one question. Like whenever we create any flows, so like earlier when we are creating any workflow and when we do the field updates, so certain thing recalculate and like validation, system validation, and then duplicate rules. That was not trigger again, but before and after trigger was getting triggered again. So in that case, flow will also trigger again
See,
or not?
see, what happens is that whenever you used to do those things in the workflow rules and process builder, okay, those were the after save kind of thing. Okay. But in the flow, you have two options. One is before save flow, is after save flow. If you do it in the before save flow, consider it is that whatever value you have provided plus those additional calculation will be done on flows and then record will be saved in the database. And if it is after save flow, then it will be done once the major object on which your transaction is running is saved. Okay, so whenever you save an opportunity, all the automations you have which runs whenever you save it will obviously run. It will not be like it will not run other things. It will run, and if there is anything which needs to be recalculated on the field save, it will be recalculated. Okay, but the major difference is that the speed before save flow comes before the even the before triggers. Okay, in the order of execution. So if you have to do something on the same object, go with the before save flow rather than process builder or workflow, because they are much lower in the order of execution. They will run at the last, to be very frank, and it will process builders are very slow. Process builders are the main reason why most of these org hit the CPU timeout, because process builders from the same screen, it looks easy that I'm also able to update the related objects opportunity, but it is very slow in terms of execution if you compare.
Is there any order in which suppose on opportunity object we have 5 validation rules? So
Mm.
is there any order in which they'll execute or we cannot predict them? that which will execute
There
first.
is no, I mean, no, we do not set orders in the validation rules. They'll start firing, all will run, whichever falls the criteria, all will run and will show you error one by one. So there is no way to set the order by the standard Salesforce way. Okay.
Okay.
But here on flow, if you show, then it will obviously come in the order. Like if there is one element here, one element below that, then obviously the first one will run first. If it falls the criteria, then this error will be displayed first, then the second error. Okay.
Yeah, because of that, I asked, like in Flow, we can leverage that facility.
Yeah. See, I don't think on the validation rule we need to set the orders and all. But yeah, maybe we can think of if we need to set the order. Okay. The session has become more of a flow session. And that is the beauty of flows. Whenever we do something on flows, they overtake everything. Okay. One of my candidate got this interview question is that whenever you debug a flow, okay, does this run only this part or the complete transaction which happens on that object? Okay, so that is a question for you guys. Tell me. So let's say if I created a record, will it run other things associated with opportunity creation, or it will just run this flow?
Others included.
Hmm.
But it will roll back also.
Yeah, that is right. That is right. It will run it roll
That
back.
is only taken for the testing purpose. One of
Yeah,
them.
yeah. Right. This is only for the testing purpose, and do not 100% rely on this debug option, guys. Okay. The real transaction which happens has completely different setup, and sometimes your flow will run here in the debug, but it will not run in the actual transaction. So always use this as a primary testing, but then later on, do the full testing with the complete transaction by activating it and checking it in the UI. Okay. All right. Now, second question we normally get is what is the cross object validation rule? Okay, so cross object validation rules are the validation rules which have a reference to other object as well. Okay, whenever your validation rule spans to other object as well, reference other objects fields as well, then that is known as cross object validation rule. Obviously those objects will be related object and you will have a business use case to reference that, but it becomes cross object validation rule when we have other objects as well in the picture. Okay, so let's say if I am creating a new opportunity and if the account associated with the opportunity is not active, then I should get an error message saying that account is not active. Okay, very simple use case. Let's build a validation rule for that. So let's call it active account validation rule. Okay. Now we have one function called is new. We will use that. Okay, this will basically tells that if the opportunity which you are creating is new, and now we can reference the account. Okay, so from here we can go to account and see if active. Okay, it's a pick list. So let us go with the is pick val. So pick list you cannot directly put here without using the is pick val. Okay. This is the structure of is pick val where you will put the pick list field here, field name. So this is account active, and this pick list has two value. Let us verify that. Okay. This has two value, I think, active and active, or yes or no. Okay, this has two value, yes or no. Okay. So we'll display if the opportunity is new and if the account is not active, then we should display the error message that associated account is not active. Please review that. Okay. And let's display it on top of the page. So you guys can see cross object reference formula is nothing but referencing a field of any other related object. That's it. They are also same as normal validation rules. So don't get fascinated by the name of it. Okay, sometimes freshers they have created 10 validation rule, 20 validation rule, but in the interview question when they get what is cross object formula, you'll see that this is something very fancy, or they might face issue with it. Okay, so let's now check it. Let's first go to account and see if this is active or inactive. This is not active, which is fine. We needed that. Let us go to opportunity and create a new opportunity, because we are running only for the new opportunity. That is also an interview question. They say that can we run the opportunity, can we run a validation rule just for the update case or just for the insert case? Then you can say yes by using the is new operator. And if it is just for the update, you can just put not in front of it. Okay. Test.
Sir, can you repeat the last sentence once again?
Yeah, I'll show you that. Don't worry. So close date is in future, status is prospect. If the selected account is test account, then it will give us the error which says that associated account is not active. Please review that. Okay, what I was saying is that sometimes they ask in an interview, can we run a validation rule just for the insert case? Like whenever a record gets inserted, then only run it. Okay, but it should not run when it is getting updated. So you can obviously do that by using the is null, which we have done, right? We have used
Okay.
is new, which we
Is new.
have done. So if it is a new record, then only it will check it, otherwise it will not check it. So if you update an existing opportunity which is already there in system
Hmm.
and associate with this account, we should be able to save this, because this is the update case. This is not the insert case. Record has already been inserted. So there will be some business situation where you will need to run something, a particular thing only for the insert case or only for the update case. Then you will use these operators to do such thing. Okay. So they will just try to trick you in the interview. These are easy thing, not the difficult thing, and comes with the practice. But sometimes we get anxious in an interview and fail to answer these. So I don't want you guys to make same mistake. Okay.
And so if we do not use that is new function, then it will be
That
for
will
both.
run for both. Yeah, then it will run for both. Okay. So if you have to create a generic rule, like whenever an opportunity is updated or created, and if the associated account is not active, then throw the validation error. So if we remove this part, and then if we try to edit it, and save this, this will give us error. Okay, because now it is running on the update as well. So it will not let us save this record. We saved it earlier, but it will not let us save this now. Okay. So that's how the cross object, but this is the old record. You can see that this is already associated with an account which has test. So we will not be able to edit it now. Okay. And because this record was created before the validation rule we put in a place, so that is why you can see still an record which has associated account which is not active. So sometimes we get the business query that we have a validation rule, but there is a record which is exception. This is exception because this was created before the validation rule we put in place. But even this record also we cannot edit now. Okay. So if we have to either, let's say you have to change the amount field, you will not be able to change even the amount field without correcting this behavior. Okay. Any doubt, guys? Now, what we are going to do is that we will deactivate this. And we will also do this in the cross object in the flow. Just for the sick practice, you can say. Okay. Now, where is our opportunity before say flow? Now, what I prefer whenever I create flow is the free form. So by the free form, I can manage the way I want those things on my screen. So I want to add another decision element. And here I will check the associated account. Check. Associated account is inactive. How we will find the associated account? We will go to the current record. Then from here, we will go to account. We'll have a lookup. And from here, we will get the active field, whose value is active. If the active is no, then only we have to display the error. Okay. First, we will add it to this, and we will add it to this. And then we will again display a custom error here. Okay. Account is not. Let's use the window now. Okay. Associated account is not active. Please review that. Okay. Let's save this. So if your flow is already activated, then you will have to save a new version of it. And it is always a good practice to note down what you did. Okay, so here you can say added a node for associated account check. And for whatever user story you are doing, there must be a user story or Mantis or whatever your company is using. You can put it like this: SFDC 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sometimes you also need to put your name. So you can do that just for the tracking purpose, because there might be two different people working on the same flow. Okay. We'll have to add it. Let me show you the auto layout. So what it says is that first it will check the close date. If it falls, close date isn't passed, it will go here. Otherwise, it will directly come and check the associated account. Okay. And even if the close date is checked, then also we'll have to check the associated account. So we will come here anyway with both the path, and then we will check here. That's how we keep on adding decision nodes on flows. Okay. Let's activate this. Let's create a new opportunity. We will use close date in future. We will select a stage as prospect. See, sometimes they'll ask you what are the major validation rules you have created, or what could be the use cases to create validation rules. So one use case is that we should not allow end users to create opportunity directly in any of these stages. So if opportunity is new and the selected stage is not prospecting, then you can throw the error message saying that the new opportunity should always be created in the prospecting stage. Or there can be many validation rules saying that, okay, if value proposition, if opportunity has been moved to value proposition and there could be couple of fields which are blank, like amount field is blank or something, then you cannot move it to value proposition. First put the value in the amount. If opportunity is moved to decision makers and there is a field decision maker which is blank, then you cannot move it to decision maker. Put the value first in this. So there can be so many validations, especially on the account, leads and contacts. Okay. Opportunity is like the soul of Sales Cloud. Okay. Everything which happens on Sales Cloud is connected with opportunity at some stage. Okay. So it's a very important stage. Okay, now let me select the account and try to save this. See, you will get an error saying that associated account is not active. Please review that. Now the difference you see is that because this time you selected this option, not the field option. You selected the option which says that in a window of a record page. When you select the option window as a record page, it will not display the field name as well, where you are getting the error or something. Okay. Associated account is not active. Please review that. So otherwise, if you select the particular field here, it will display associated account is not active. Please review that, and then the field name. Okay. So these are the minute things or I don't think you will get in an interview, but you should know that as a good developer, you can tell those things in an interview. Okay. All right. That's pretty much how you guys are liking these sessions, like the way we do the practical things. See, had we needed just to go through this, we would have done it in 10-15 minutes. Okay, but that's not what my main intention is. My main intention is to show you these things in the reality, how it runs, rather than covering just the questions. I have always liked this approach because that uh, gives more idea about how we do these things in reality, and this stays with students for longer period of time. So even in an interview, if they go and they have gone through this session, even if they have not created those things on their own, they will have a feeling that they have seen those things happening on their screen. So they are better equipped with all those interview questions. So do let me know your feedback on these sessions as well. And obviously these sessions are for you. So I will obviously accommodate your request and try to improvise as per you want. Okay. Can we make a field required by validation rule? Definitely we can make a field required by validation rule. What are the other ways to make a field required? Other ways to make field requires are when we create a field, we get an option to make it required. We can make it required by page layout. We can make it required by validation rule. We can make it required by trigger. Now we can also make it required by flows, because we can put the validation or custom errors there. So this is the addition to that question. We can also put it required by flows. Can we prevent deletion of a child record from parent record via validation rule? See, normally Can we prevent the deletion via validation rule? Validation rule does not run on the delete of a record. So whenever you delete a record, validation rules will not run. Okay, so direct deletion of a record will not be prevented by validation rule. But let's say if there is a child record and we put a validation rule on child, and then there is an automation which rolls up the number of child in the parent, and we can put a validation rule on that field, like whenever this number changes, put a validation rule that you cannot change, you cannot delete the child record. So that is possible. There is a workaround to do that. If we have a roll up field either by the master detail relationship, or we have a roll up field by the customization if it is a lookup relationship, and whenever the number changes on that field, we can prevent the when the number decreases, not the changes, because whenever you add a new child record, it will obviously change. So on change you will not put. Whenever number decreases, then you can put a validation rule saying that you cannot delete the child record. But it depends on what business case you are trying to satisfy. Okay, but it is possible. Okay. See, normally freshers or people who have 1 or 2 years of experience get this question a lot. This was kind of favorite questions of interviewer earlier. There is a validation rule which checks the amount field on opportunity, and value should not be greater than 50. If it is greater than 50, it will show an error message. And then there is a workflow rule which updates it to 100. Then what will be the value of that field? We will get the validation, or workflow will be able to update, or what will happen by the end of transaction? What will be the final value? So obviously validation rule comes before. So they will check if the value you put is less than 50. Okay, then nothing will happen, and then workflow rule will later on update it to 100. But if the value you put is more than 50, then validation rule will run. They will not allow you to go ahead in your transaction, and record will not be saved. Then what interviewer does is that they try to mix couple of things here. Like you put 30, then trigger updated it to 50, then there was an after update which made it to 70, then there was a flow, then there was a work process builder. They will try to mix it with different things. What they actually want to understand is that your understanding of order of execution. So whenever these question comes, rather than just answering what will be the final value, try to explain it from the order of execution point of view. Okay, so we put 50, we have validation rules, we have before save flow. Before save flow will do this, validation rule will do this, then trigger will do this. Try to put the value in front of which automation tool a tool update it to what, and show your overall knowledge about order of execution. See, the simple reason of this question is to understand the order of execution, not understand, actually just to see your understanding of order of execution. So that's pretty much I wanted to cover today. I have a long deployment to do, so I will be busy today. We will have a doubt session tomorrow on the same time, and there is no agenda for that. So whatever we have covered, in general, you can ask, or in general, you can ask anything, and we will try to make it interactive. We will try to see if there is anything which we don't know, then we'll try to find the answer of that and come up with that. You can generally ask about market situation, job openings, and all. So yeah, there is no such agenda as per in the doubt session, mostly to answer your doubts. Yes, Swapnil, please go ahead.
Yeah, can you just repeat can we bypass the validation rule for data loader?
Yeah, so yeah, can we bypass the validation rule for data loader? Yes, we can bypass the validation rule for data loader. There are multiple ways to do that. One way is, let's say if our user is fixed who loads the data, okay, then what we can do, we can create a user field on that record, field on the user object saying that bypass validation rule. Okay, and then mark it as true. Okay, and in the validation rule, we build it in a way that we will only run the validation rule if that bypass validation is false. And then then we check that we have already checked that thing in the validation rule, that if it is false, then only run it. So by that way we can do. There is other way is we create a custom permission and assign that custom permission to that user and then bypass it. There is another way to do it with the custom settings and metadata, which I have asked you guys to do. Okay, and then there is a direct way to do it, like simply put system admin profile and do not run the validation rule when the system admin profile is run. There is another way to do it with the object. On the object itself, you can create a field, bypass it for opportunity and all, and then do that. So there are multiple ways. I leave it up to you to explore the different options available. But to answer this, yes, it is very much possible. There are multiple ways to do that. And we saw just one way, which was adding the profile directly in the validation rule, which was the easiest, but not an optimal way. There are other ways I want you guys to go. And if you feel that I should also demo the validation rules bypass via the custom setting, via the custom metadata, or by providing the custom permissions, I can also show you that. There are tons of links available for that also. Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Mohit. Yeah.
And yeah, please go ahead.
Mohit.
Yeah. Yeah, hi.
Yeah,
What's your,
one
okay,
question I have.
let me get the first thing right. How to pronounce your name? Shaikeb Rizvi.
Shikeb.
Shikeb. Okay, sorry. Yeah, I see this is going to be long engagement, so I don't want to keep on repeating your name incorrectly. Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, I have been asked one question like, can we bypass system validation? If not, and what are the other type of validation that we can't bypass?
We cannot bypass system validations that were put by Salesforce for a reason. Other validations which we cannot bypass. See, normally validation rules are not created to be bypassed. Okay, bypassed is basically just a quick fix to do something, but there is a reason why we put those validation rules to have our system and data integrity in place. Okay, so there should be very rare cases when we should be bypassing anything. But other validation rules via triggers, via validation rules or via flows, we can obviously bypass by doing some tweaks in the system.
So means only system validation we
Yep.
can't bypass.
Yep, we can.
Other than that, we can.
We can
And
bypass
while creating any a field, so we make a field as a required. So that can be bypassed.
That can be bypassed as in not you can put the data on without putting data on that field. You should be able to save that. No, I don't think if you have made the field required, you'll have to put the value in it.
Means these are the two only, I think. Okay.
Yeah, you cannot bypass that.
Okay.
Okay. Yes, Manjunath, go ahead.
Yeah, about the same, it's bypassing. Usually this is the interview question which we often get this. How do you bypass the trigger? For example, I want to do some changes in the deployment or something. I don't want my trigger to fire it.
Yeah.
So
same way we bypass the validation rule, by same way we can bypass the trigger as well. Find the answer of one, you will get the answer of other as well. By using the same thing. So here in the validation rule, you put a check about profile. On the trigger, you can also put a profile check about profiles and only run it if that is true. Or only run the trigger when assign a custom permission to your user and check that custom permission. If that custom permission is true for that user, then only run that particular piece. So you have to play with the Boolean things in the code, or in the created on the user level or created on the object level. The best way is to do it with the custom meta, because that is the scalable way. Let's say today you have to bypass the trigger for opportunity. Okay, you just created a field on opportunity or something, but it is not scalable. You will have to, let's say tomorrow, bypass the account triggers, then you will have to again repeat the same thing. Instead, go for the custom metadata and put the object name, profile name, and if we need to bypass it or not. Okay, so go with that approach. That is what I want you guys to explore, but I think that I'll have to cover that in a session because of the impact of it. Custom metadata is the best approach whenever you'll have to bypass anything, either the validation rule or the trigger. Okay, if you guys are not able to find out, then I'll have to cover that in a session. Okay.
Sure.
One last question, Mohit.
Yes, Swapnil.
So I have been asked one question, like whenever we are doing any deployment, so in that, like Salesforce check for 75% of test cases that has been passed or not. So is it possible that we can bypass that thing?
No. You will have to make sure that the 75% code coverage is complete. And I have seen orgs where the people do the malpractices to cover the code coverage. But as a good developer, you will never do such thing. See, now you have so many tools which can write test classes for you. But if you will take test classes seriously, it will improve your code. Okay. It will find the bugs in your system if you use the test classes carefully. So you cannot bypass the 75% code coverage either by the malpractice or either by the good approach. You will have to write test classes and cover the 75% code coverage. You will not be able to bypass this. Yes,
Yeah,
Swapnil.
yeah, I just want to add that you just said as a best practice, we must go for the custom metadata, right? So as there is a custom setting and the custom metadata. I have just worked just handovers on the both side and use the custom metadata as in projects. So both the custom setting and the custom metadata is the same work as per my same work as a perspective by the way. So which to choose which as an answer, I will just prepare for myself just before that. Just
Okay.
please decides on our business what to go with.
When we say custom settings and custom metadata are same, we are talking about list custom setting. Okay, list type of custom setting is same as custom metadata, but not the hierarchical custom setting. Okay, in future, I think you might have got this option already that they are not promoting the list type of custom setting because metadata is an option, but hierarchical custom setting is still very relevant and is completely different from custom metadata. What hierarchical custom setting gives you, you cannot achieve by the custom metadata. Okay, so here you can do normally with the list custom setting, which you can also do with the custom metadata. But let's say if in an org where you have a scenario where you have to bifurcate based on the profiles and based on, let's say, something called region or something, then if you have used hierarchical custom setting, then you already aware about what it provides. But when we say that they both are same, we are talking about list custom setting, not the hierarchical. Hierarchical custom setting is completely different from metadata, and custom metadata cannot provide what hierarchical custom settings provide. Okay.
Yeah, apart from that,
we have
like
to tell the difference like this, same as you said, the list and the hierarchy.
Yeah, they
As a
both
best
can achieve,
practice.
they both
As
can
a
achieve
best
this
practice.
functionality. They both can achieve this functionality. But Salesforce itself is now saying that instead of creating list custom setting, go for the metadata. So that is the in line with what Salesforce says.
Thank you for the
yeah, even though apart from that, like we can create the relation like lookups between
Yeah,
two
there are
custom
many
metadata.
differences as well.
Okay.
So from this particular requirements point of view, I'm saying that you can do with both.
Okay,
There
okay.
are other differences
Yeah.
as well between metadata and setting, and we will have a session on this because Salesforce admin topics, custom settings and metadata is the only topic where most of the new people fails in the sense that they are not able to explain well in terms of practical examples. They are able to tell the differences, but from the practical example point of view, which is our approach to do things, they fail because most of the time developers use this and new people hardly
Yeah.
can create that. So we will have a business use case, and then I will show you how actually we created to fulfill a business need rather than just the theoretical differences between them. Okay. That will be a good session. All right. I think that should be all for today's, guys. Thank you. Lovely joining you all this morning, and I will connect with you all tomorrow. I think tomorrow we will do all the heavy lifting, not the heavy lifting, all the user management topic. There are smaller admin topics because I want to start the record sharing and security because that will take 2 sessions at least. So before that, I want to cover these smaller chunks like user management, page layout, record types, email template, and the smaller topics. So If I get time today to prepare for that, we will do. Otherwise, we will directly start the record sharing, and we will come. See, we do not get much questions from page layout, email templates. There are 1 or 2 questions which we can cover any day. Okay.
So
Okay,
tomorrow we have session,
Oh,
Mohit?
sorry, not tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll have a doubt session. Doubt session is open for all. So I'll also ask my other students from batch 1 to join. That will be just an interactive session where you can ask anything, not only related to Salesforce, but also if you're not getting any calls, if you want me to review your resume, if you have general question about if you answered something, you feel that was not good, why you got rejected, all those things in general. There is no agenda for that. We keep it very open.
So we can ask any question like not related to
Yeah,
this
definitely.
topic.
Not only related to what we covered this week, but anything. See, it
Okay.
is obviously there will be many students, so they'll be asking a lot of questions, but it is like a fun coffee chat session. That's it. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Cool. Thank you. And those
But our
Thank you, Mohit.
keep engaging us. Those
Thank you,
sessions
sir.
actually. Yeah. Thanks
Thank you, sir.
everyone. Have a lovely day,
Thank
and
you.
talk to you guys tomorrow. And feel free
Thank
to
you,
ping me
Mohit.
on WhatsApp. Okay. Thanks. Bye bye.
Thank
Okay,
Yeah,
sure.
thanks,
Thank you.
you.
Mohit.
Thank you, Mohit. Bye.